I'm Kaylee, and today I'm going to tell you how I first started reading classics and where might be a good place for you to start. When I was a kid, I loved to read anything and everything, and my parents were really good about getting me books, and especially classics. Before we get into the classics that got me started reading, I want to make sure that you know that Books for MKs is a charity that donates books to missionary kids. Today's MK shout out goes to HYDE, I think. HYDE? I don't know how to say this young man's name. I am so sorry. HYDE, I hope that's right. HYDE lives in Cambodia with his family. He's 12 years old and he loves fantasy and science fiction. If you want to donate to the Books for MKs charity, you can do so at gofundme.com. And don't forget to click on that subscribe and on the little notification bell. So first I'm going to tell you just a little bit about how I started reading classics, and then we'll get into some good places for you to start. When I was a kid, my parents bought us a bunch of the children's illustrated classics. I loved these books. My siblings loved these books. We read them over and over and over. I especially remember when I was maybe 9 or 10 reading some of these and being so proud that I could read it all by myself, and my little brother still couldn't read chapter books. My little brother would open these up and he could only look at the pictures. But even my littlest brother enjoyed just looking at the pictures. The cool thing about the Children's Illustrated Classics is that on every page there's a picture and text. So you'll have text on one side and a picture on the other side. So every other page is this beautifully illustrated black and white drawing. I think that first of all, when you're a young kid, when you're 10 or 11 or something, it really helps you to take in this understanding of the story to be able to see it illustrated, especially because many classics can get really complex. Of course, these are simplified way down for children, but even so, a complex plot, it's hard for a kid to understand and keep track of all the different things that are going on. So if you have a child and you think, man, my kid needs to read classics, these are a fantastic place to start. Another good one that is a little bit more modern, because these were out like in the 80s and the 90s, is the Classic Starts series for children. These are classics that, again, have been abridged down to make them simple for children to read. Some of these are really beautifully illustrated, and they have really engaging colors that just make a kid want to pick it up. When I graduated out of the Children's Illustrated Classics, then I started reading the real thing. I think I had already read the simplified, abridged version of Little Women and really loved it. So by the time I was probably 12 or 13, I wanted to read the real Little Women. And I went on and read the whole Little Women series and a bunch of other books by Ellen Alcott. I started reading books like Green Gables and a whole bunch of other books by Ellen Montgomery. I really loved Frances Hodgson Burnett with books like The Secret Garden and A Little Princess. And I read over and over and over the Little House books by Laura Ingalls Wilder. So little by little, I was graduating into some of those simpler classics that were written for young people back in the day. From there, I started to branch out and read Jane Austen and the Brontes, and before you knew it, I had a huge, massive shelf full of classics, as you can see behind me. Now, it wasn't until just the last, 4 or 5 years maybe, that I discovered the manga classics. These are classics that have been adapted into a manga graphic novel style. So if you're an adult and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to read a children's classic, then the manga classics might be a good place to start. If you're intimidated by classics, or you just feel like, I just don't know if I can even get into that, it seems so old and dusty and boring or something, first of all, you need to go watch my Misconceptions on Classics video. And secondly, you could try some manga classics. I have read a ton of these, and I am always so impressed with how well they condense the main story into a manga form and still keep so much of the integrity of the original story. Plus, even if you're not intimidated by classics, these manga classics are just so much fun to read. Another great place to start with classics are just really short classics. Especially short stories like the Sherlock Holmes stories, or maybe Father Brown. You don't have to jump right into Tolstoy and Shakespeare. There are lots of short and easy classics that you can jump right in. And if you're looking for some recommendations of good classics to start with, you can watch my All About Classics playlist, where I talk all about classics. And that is pretty much it. That is where I started out with classics as a little kid and then kind of graduated into the big classics. And those are a couple of places where I think if you're really intimidated by classics and you just don't even want to try, then maybe you could try a couple of these things and you might find that you actually enjoy it. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know, how did you first start out reading classics? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.